Coming up on Newswatch in Focus, with the presidential election looming, deciding which candidate to select is becoming increasingly important and in a hurry. Part of the way that decision is made for some is through watching the presidential candidate debates. We'll have a local expert's analysis of the latest debate on the show next. Stay tuned. Newswatch in Focus starts right now. Welcome and thanks for joining us for Newswatch in Focus. I'm your host, Kate Pleasant. Our topic this week is the most recent presidential debate between Democratic nominee President Barack Obama and Republican nominee Governor Mitt Romney. Tuesday's debate was the second in a series of three, with the final debate taking place Monday, October 22nd. Tuesday's heated debate was more town hall style, featuring questions from the audience and topics covering both foreign and domestic policy. Many political analysts and news outlets are claiming Obama had the edge over Romney to win the debate. We'll have a local take on that thought as we talk to Dr. Marita Gronnvoll from Eastern Illinois University's Department of Communication Studies and Shane Rogers from the Political Science Department at Lakeland College in Mattoon here in our studios in just a moment. But first, here's some of the wrap-up and overview coverage of the debate from WEIU Newswatch this week.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Lori Casey.
And I'm Kelly Runyon.
President Obama and Mitt Romney face off tonight in the second of three debates during this campaign season.
Renee Marsh is in New York with the latest.
Hours before tonight's debate, here's how President Obama's people are describing him.
He's energized. I think people can expect to see a passionate President Obama delivering the case for why he has a better plan for the middle class.
Just weeks ago, he held a substantial lead, but the latest polls show the race narrowly deadlocked. The president is hoping to step up his game after his weak debate performance in Denver.
He knew when he walked off that stage, and he also knew as he's watched the tape of that debate that he's got to be more energetic.
His advisors say the president will be more aggressive, hitting back on issues such as Romney's tax returns and time at Bain Capital, and will be more intent on fact-checking. Romney's camp says that won't be enough.
The president can change his style, he can change his tactics, he can't change his record, and he can't change his policies. And that's what this election is about.
Mitt Romney is coming to the debate with momentum on his side, and his wife says he's ready for a rematch.
Mitt's prepared, Mitt's confident, Mitt's got a good presence about him.
But his son is focusing on that common pre-debate practice of not raising expectations.
I think the format, though, is going to make it tough for anyone really to win. I think it'll most likely be a draw. I mean, it's a town hall format.
A format that requires the candidates to make a personal connection with an audience of undecided voters.
Topping tonight's National Watch, President Obama and Mitt Romney met at a debate last night that was often heated and contentious. Renee Marsh joins us from New York with a recap.
The running mates are weighing in after last night's matchup.
Mitt Romney offered people a very concrete vision about how he's got the experience, the knowledge to get people back to work, to grow the economy. That's why I think he won this debate.
I thought it was incredible that Governor Romney had nothing but a sketchy response to everything. This is the third debate we've had on their tax policy. They've yet to come up with a single solitary specific.
President Obama pulled few punches last night, a stark contrast to his debate performance 2 weeks ago.
When he said behind closed doors that 47% of the country considered themselves victims who refused personal responsibility, think about who he was talking about.
Mitt Romney held his ground, calling the president a failed leader.
A recent study has shown that people in the middle class will see $4,000 a year higher taxes as a result of the spending and borrowing of this administration. I will not let that happen.
The candidates clashed over the economy, energy, and the administration's response to the attack in Libya that killed 4 Americans, including the U.S. ambassador.
The day after the attack, Governor, I stood in the Rose Garden and I told the American people and the world that we were going to find out exactly what happened, that this was an act of terror.
It took the president 14 days before he called the attack in Benghazi an act of terror.
Get the transcript.
According to a CNN ORC poll, of the people who watched the debate,
The majority of them felt as if the president won overall. However, those same viewers felt as if Mitt Romney won on specific issues, important issues like the economy. The next debate is next Monday. Reporting in Hempstead, New York, I'm Renee Marsh.
Wonder where we get our story inspirations from? Make sure to tune in to Newswatch every weeknight at 5:30 right here on WEIU to find out. Newswatch in Focus takes a local story from the week that was featured on Newswatch and goes more in depth. For more local news, weather, and sports, tune in to Newswatch every weeknight at 5:30. And we're back now with Dr. Marita Gronnvoll from Eastern Illinois University's Communication Studies Department and Shane Rogers from Lakeland's Political Science Department. We thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. A pleasure.
And we are, of course, talking about the recent debate that happened on Tuesday. First of all, before we get into that, I'd like to have you each kind of identify your areas of academic interest, if you don't mind, and kind of let us know what your specialties are.
Okay. Well, I'm in communication studies, and my particular area is rhetoric, so the study of rhetoric or how messages are created. And my kind of sub area of interest is gender and feminist studies.
Okay, and what about you, Shane?
My name's Shane Rogers, and I teach political science classes at Lakeland College, and I teach political science classes in American government, state and local, and international relations. And my area is more the Congress, House and Senate.
Okay, so we kind of got a variety here. This will make for good topics of discussion today.
Yeah, I think so.
So first of all, can you each give me your individual take on this most recent debate which happened on Tuesday, kind of your overall look?
Okay. Overall, this was so different. It was so different from the first debate. For one thing, the energy was unbelievable going on. I think President Obama clearly had learned something from the first debate, so he kind of came out swinging. That was my my take on this, and I wasn't entirely sure that Governor Romney was ready for that. So he seemed like, at least to start with, he was a little back on his heels. So I think that the energy level was high in this one, and that there was a determination on both sides that they were going to be remembered from this debate.
Okay, and what about you, Shane?
I agree, yeah, and the whole context of the discussion and the interaction with the audience, it makes a difference in the whole atmosphere of how those candidates, not only what they say, you know, verbally, but with their body language and all that. And even though it doesn't provide a lot of substance, obviously, you know, there's more to rhetoric than just the spoken word.
Yes,
So it was interesting. You really got to see that, and I like it better because it's not somebody just standing behind a podium. You don't get as much there, maybe a little more substantive, but not as much of the interaction.
And the town hall, just to add on to that, the town hall style really gives you a lot that the traditional debate style doesn't give, and it challenges the candidates in very different ways, which I think was an interesting choice. And that's been kind of the way it has been for the past few presidential debates, that they've tried this town hall style, and it is a challenge for the candidates.
Right. And what would you say from the rhetoric point of view? You know, the way messages are created is what you said, you know, about rhetoric. And obviously it had changed, you said, for President Obama between the first debate and second debate. But what would you say from an overall rhetoric perspective on this debate? How did you feel about that?
Well, from a rhetorical perspective, I found President Obama, when I say that the candidates were trying to be remembered, that they're appealing their message particularly to a media audience, and knowing that they're going to have sound bites. The sound bites need to come out of the debate. And so, just for an example, one of the very first things that Obama said when he went, I thought, kind of on an aggressive attack of Governor Romney, is when Governor Romney had said, "I have my 5-point plan." And Obama came back with, "You don't have a 5-point plan, you have a 1-point plan." And so that little sound bite is going to be something that people remember. Oh, the 5-point plan is a figment of his imagination. It's a 1-point plan, and that's obviously to give breaks to the rich out on the backs of the middle class.
So obviously things like that they say can create certain, you know, mindsets for people that are watching,
and a lot of media buzz.
And then would you say that's part of the goal?
Oh, of course it is. Yeah, they're both highly aware of the fact that they live in a media world.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. And in doing that, trying to get, I hate to say bumper sticker, you know, type answers, but those labels do matter to hone in on what the message is.
Yeah.
The 5-point plan broken down to a 1-point plan, and then even calling it further a sketchy deal. You know, giving somebody something to relate what even that 1-point plan is. And I think Governor Romney tried to do that also with, the Libya comment, because that was a problem area for the president.
Sure. Right.
But it was more successfully carried off by President Obama on one hand, and not so much on the other with Romney. But the first debate was a little bit different, so it's this tug of war back and forth. But
yes, exactly.
It's interesting to see that, and it takes, I think, a very good communicator on both sides to be able to take all these complex issues and in 2 minutes or so, whatever the answer is, to break it down.
Okay. And would you say, we kind of mentioned this a little before, you've kind of covered it, but would you each say, in your opinion, that there was a clear winner?
I would say so, yes. Of course, you really try when you want to be an informed citizen to not necessarily focus on winners and losers, but because presidential campaigns are so much structured as horse races, it's very difficult to not come down to that winner and loser. But yes, I do think, in my opinion, President Obama was the clear winner in this case. And it's kind of shocking to me when I see so much media out there that is saying that this was a draw. I don't think it was even close to a draw. I think Obama was the clear winner.
Okay. Do you agree? Disagree?
I would have to agree. And how you determine the winner, and everybody does that in different ways. Rhetorically, the points that they were able to make that they weren't able to make in the first debate, which for President Obama was quite a few.
A lot,
So even raising the expectations of, well, I'm coming back, I'm more aggressive, I am here, I do want the job. If that was one of the undecided voters' things of looking at, do I want to vote for this person? And then say, well, yeah, he did prove that for me. I already know the other one did good. Can this one compete? And then substantively, I agree.
Okay. Well, let's talk about undecided voters for a minute, because that's a very small portion of what's left. A lot of times by this point, and especially in this race, many people have already decided who they're going to vote for. So how does that translate into debates? I mean, are they pointless? Is it still something we definitely need to pay attention on? Is there possibility to change minds? What are your perspectives on that?
Well, to start with one of your questions is whether or not they are pointless. I'd say debates are absolutely valuable. There is some research out there to suggest that we watch debates in greater numbers even than we watch the Super Bowl, which is amazing to me because the Super Bowl is what everybody watches, but we actually do watch presidential debates in greater numbers than we watch the Super Bowl. And yes, I do think that they can make a difference for undecided voters. It's always surprising to me when you have two candidates that are so diametrically opposed that there can be an undecided voter at this point. But yes, I think that's the whole purpose of the debate, is to help the undecided voter. I'm not at all certain, and you may disagree with me, but I'm not at all certain that they will move anyone who has already made up their mind. I don't think that that people are wholesale changing their minds based on the debates.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a discussion with my students this morning about this, and it was kind of interesting because they point out to me that their understanding of an undecided voter may be different than the person sitting next to them. And they say, well, why are they undecided? Are they just not paying attention? The campaign's been going on not only for this year, but 2 years. And when will the next one start? Right after this one. So how could they be undecided? I said, well, maybe their particular issue they're interested in just hasn't been discussed yet, so they're waiting for yet that third one or whatever. But I agree. I think they do make a difference. Even since right here in Illinois, the Lincoln-Douglas debates, we still talk about those and what an impact they had in every different way. And I think this one will too as well.
And we have seen where not necessarily a debate can be the undoing of a candidate, but where it can certainly have an impact. I always think back to Bush the First in his debate with Clinton, and particularly the town hall debate, which, if I may be wrong about this, but I think that was the first time that it was attempted.
I think it was.
Yeah, and where you had just not even so much that what Bush said, although he certainly did seem like he was out of touch. Certain things he didn't seem to relate to the audience, but also just even his physical demeanor, that he was sitting there looking at his watch, which may have been a completely innocent thing, but it was perceived then, and of course being replayed again and again by the media, is that he's bored. He wants to leave, and that really led to some very bad press against him that could have influenced undecided voters very unfavorably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I sort of call it the debate after the debate.
Yes.
There's really kind of 3 stages to a debate. The debate before the debate, and this gets so analyzed and everything so much afterwards, after the election. But what I mean by that is the memo of understanding of the debate rules, you know, how the structure, and that's important, as you know, of what you can say, what you can bring, how long you have to talk. And the candidates, of course, don't get involved in that, the lawyers, for the but it structures what they say. We get to see, you know, the debate live, of course, and then there's the debate after the debate, the post-debate, where the media and everybody gets to debate, and it all, you know, of course, has that opportunity to make a difference. I don't know exactly, and it'll be interesting to see how much of a percentage may swing one way or the other. Some minds will be changed, but I don't think, I agree with you that it will be a determining factor in the outcome. But we have a third debate to go, so we'll see. Maybe I'm premature on that.
So do you think, you know, in today's society, how we have, you know, the debates after the debates and the media and the social media and all the things that we have now, do you think that is creating more educated voters, or would you say it has some kind of other effect?
I would say yes, it is creating, it has the potential to create an educated voter, more educated voter, let's put it that way. For example, we did the debate watch here on campus the other night, and we had a lot of students in the audience, and quite honestly, there were a lot of them there who were there because they were getting extra credit for being there, so they were kind of, you know, coerced into the room in the first place. But what was really fascinating about that is that once there, and watching this, they really learned something from the debate. I had so much feedback afterwards, written feedback included, where they responded to questionnaires where they would fill the questionnaire with things that they learned. So it had just an incredibly, this instructive element to the debate where they really, really learned something. And I would bet a lot of them then went back to their dorms and continued to talk about it afterwards. So in that sense, yes, it was very educational, I think.
And maybe talking points are something we need. You know, the debate after the debate needs to continue.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I agree. And in so many different levels. You know, the humor of it. You know what different people thought was funny, and or they'll refer even to Jon Stewart or Stephen Colbert. You know, kind of the popular. In my classrooms, anyway, that they, if they didn't watch the debates, they said, "Well, we got all we needed from that." You know,
from Facebook,
or Facebook or Twitter.
Correct. And even the informational cues that they pick up on that. You know, they'll go back. Some people get a little bit stale with just blogs and websites and all that, and so it's kind of a new element that I find fun and you know, interesting to listen to, and I learn something as well.
Would you say that those are, you know, factual attempts at these things? Are they places that people should be getting their information to make informed decisions, or do we have to be careful about that?
We probably do have to be careful about that. You know, and I often think that places like Facebook and Twitter is so much, you know, kind of preaching to the choir. So if you've already made up your mind about something, you're going to have that reinforced through your Facebook social network. You know, they're going to be thinking the same thing you did, and I think that's how those memes just get legs and run.
What would you say about that, the social media?
Yeah, I agree.
There type of environment that we live in now.
I talked to a student the other day who said, "Well, I know this is true because I saw it on YouTube." And I said, "Well, you know,
that's like saying everything on TV you see is true." Absolutely.
As long as it sparks a discussion, I hope to give them a few other sources that either challenges them or maybe confirms them. But you know, whatever we can kind of use to get that going.
Yeah, I guess in a way it's kind of like at least we're getting people talking about this, especially younger people, because you know you hear all the time about the younger vote and things like that. So you know, even the humorous takes on that, I suppose it would be getting students, younger people, undecided voters. Everyone's talking now.
Yes.
So would you? I would say that's valuable. Would you agree?
Oh, it's extremely valuable, and then so of course new technology and new media such as Twitter does enable that, because you know they're twittering, you know, tweeting all the time. So to even if it's just some funny little one-liner, it's something that people want to be part of that inside joke. What's going on there? What was this comment about? And if that fosters discussion, that's fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so one of the comments that I kind of, you know, I've been hearing a lot about, the media has been all over it, and we can maybe talk about it here, is Governor Romney and his binders full of women. And for those that may be unfamiliar with this, he was answering a question from the audience about pay discrepancies between men and women. And in his answer to the question, he talked about when he became governor of Massachusetts that he sought out top-level women for positions in his cabinet. And he said, quote, "I went to my staff and said, how come all the people on these jobs are men? We took a concerted effort to go out and find women who had backgrounds who could be qualified to become members of our cabinet, and I went to a number of women's groups and said, can you help us find folks? And they brought us whole binders full of women." So that kind of started this, I don't know what you want to call it, media frenzy about this comment. And so first of all, why do you think that is? And second of all, what's your take on this?
Well, it was a funny comment. I think clearly, to be fair, it was a slip of the tongue. He certainly didn't intend to imply actually binders full of women. And I think, though, on the more serious side, it did kind of, I think, touch a place for a lot of feminists in particular, that one of Governor Romney's comments was when he was talking about what he has done for women and talking about women in his campaign, enabling them to go home early and cook dinner for their kids. And for a lot of feminists, that's like, well, okay, thanks. But clearly it's kind of this idea of division of labor, and this is that second shift that a woman would have, that she has to work really late to please her white male boss, and then go home and continue that second shift taking care of her kids, where it's not any kind of a partnership involved there. So I think that's why on the serious side, the binder comment got feed and ran, is because it kind of suggested a larger part of perhaps some insensitivity towards women's issues.
Okay, and what's your take on that?
Yeah, one of my students, again, I kind of refer back to them, was perplexed and a little bit puzzled by. He said, "I thought this was such a softball type question and I forget the exact question that led up to that. If it was the Lilly Ledbetter Act, I think, or something, equal pay for women." He said, "I thought that, everybody knows you of course I'm for this. Equality, it's a good thing." And at what level or whatever policy you want to, initiate to get that, just say, yes, I'm for it. He says, "I just can't understand why it was such a softball thing and he tripped over that or went into a detail or that didn't quite connect." And I think you're right on certain people can do it and certain cannot. And just because he didn't that one time doesn't mean he can't. I mean, he's got to this level, but I think it's a heightened, there's a burden on him on the next debate not to go back to that issue, but to somehow show that he can connect on a broader issue. I think it's going to be more difficult in the next debate because it's about foreign policy, unless perhaps he would talk about the wife of an Army veteran who's at home, who has to do everything while her husband's gone, and there's some issues there. Maybe it would be more difficult to deal with on a foreign policy substance debate. But if he could, then it's going to say, well, I am trying to connect. I'm not this person who thinks callously towards women's issues. But he's got a lot of ground to cover, I think.
He does.
Okay. So as we kind of draw closer to a close here, let's talk about maybe what we need to be watching out for in the next debate and what we should be taking away from this next debate.
Well, the next debate is entirely on foreign policy, which it has not, at least so far, been Governor Romney's strong area. So I think that what's going to be very interesting to watch for is, one, if both candidates continue to focus so almost exclusively on China. That has been really interesting, how much they have been kind of throwing barbs at China and almost scapegoating China in some ways to the absence of other foreign policy issues. And secondly, for Governor Romney, I'm interested to see if he is going to say anything more on the Libyan issue, because he is really running the risk. He came very close to it. I think maybe actually stepped over the line in this last debate of appearing to try to score points off dead Americans. And so I think he needs to tread very carefully in that area and not keep on beating this issue, because it could actually bite him.
Okay, Shane?
Yeah, I agree. There seems to be a similar theme with Governor Romney here on the sensitivity issue, whether it's the taking advantage or not too much of appearing like you're taking advantage of a tragedy or for political gain, or not connecting with a certain group of voters. It's a different style debate that may be more difficult for him as well, because we're going back to that stand behind the podium and 2-minute answer type debate. So we'll see. I'll be very interested. They kind of tend to want to flex their foreign policy knowledge muscles here and talk about names of certain leaders of certain countries and say, I can identify with, I know where such and such is on a map, and I've talked to this leader, and try and make a connection. But it's somewhat far removed. I think most Americans, and it's not necessarily a criticism, are more tuned, especially now, to our economy and domestic policy. So both of them have a challenge on doing that and connecting with the voter on a broad scale to inform them.
Okay, so a lot to look forward to in the next debate, and maybe some takeaway things we can watch for there. So, well, Dr. Marita Gronnvoll from Eastern's Communication Studies Department, we thank you for joining us today, as well as Shane Rogers from Lakeland College's Political Science Department. We appreciate you coming in and talking about this issue today. We're about out of time, but we are about out of time, like I just said, and we hope you'll join us next time here on Newswatch in Focus. In the meantime, coming up next is the Four Rivers Ag Report with Fred Peralta, so you might want to stick around for that. Thanks for watching tonight. Thanks for tuning in to Newswatch in Focus. Is there a news story happening in your community? Let us know about it. You can email our newsroom at news@weiu.net, call us at 581-2911, or write to us at 600 Lincoln Avenue, Charleston, Illinois 61920.